So just using this action of moving from leg to leg to draw, to feel as though the end of the spine is being drawn into the leg. So I pull the ground with the foot. So the foot pulls the ground, but the top of the leg pulls the spine. So by bending the leg, I'm sucking this end of the spine down to the foot. And again, I want to work energetically. So I do the action softly so that I can feel the sort of mind that I would need to let this happen naturally. So I want it to be something that I do all the time, hopefully, rather than something I just choose to do when I practice. So there should be like a softness to your walk where you just take the ground all the time rather than bang onto it. And then you'll be sucking the spine down to the ground all the time. So mind in the dantian. So mind in the dantian, that becomes a natural thing when the lower back starts to right itself. So when the lower back flattens out a little bit, which drawing the tail down into the foot will help. So the lower spine is plumb erect. So in the classics, when they talk about the spine, they're only talking really about the bit beneath the min meng. So the sacrum and the and the bottom vertebra. So I want that to be vertical. So tail between my legs, like a dog on a mission. No time for fun. Okay, so you effectively have two tails, one that goes down one leg, one that goes down the other. Same as you've got two arms. So one tail roots and the other tail explores. So both ends of the spine have to be active if I want to be energetic. So if I'm using force, what I will tend to do is block off one end of the spine, stabilize it and make it rock hard so that I can apply pressure with the other end of the spine. If it's energy, then both ends are open. So here I'm extending down into the legs so that I can extend energetically with the upper body. So when it's energetic, it's light, it's cheerful, and it's playful. Just like the octopus. Imagine the octopus only lives for a year. Life's too short to be miserable. So it's playful all the time. Okay, so let's just bring it to riding horse. I'm just feeling the spine extending down each leg like a stream of energy. Yeah, so very much, like the lone wolf. So the wolf has grown up in the pack, and since it's been a newborn, it's only known play, really. So it's played with its brothers and sisters, it's played with its elders. But then there comes a point where the hormones kick in and it wants to reproduce, so it will leave the pack, it will become the lone wolf. And at that point, the mood of existence changes. It just becomes serious because it's now on a mission. It's on a quest. It's trying to find, the Holy Grail. It's trying to find enlightenment. So it needs to find others that are in a similar predicament as itself that it can form a pack with. and its whole posture, everything about it changes. Its mood becomes sort of just heavy and directed. It's no longer playing around, messing around. So this is us with our tail down rather than tail sticking out. The opposite of that would be like the squirrel. I think the squirrel, its tail comes up its back and curves over. So when you really stick your tail back, you're bright and breezy. But you're not really going anywhere. So we want it pulled in, if not under, and a sense that I'm really concentrating my energy at the front, keeping it inside, so that I've got the energy to go about my mission. Like when you see like an old martial artist, they're no longer fighting because they're a bit old, but they've seen it all, and they know that it just, it's a sin to waste energy. It's a sin to be profligate. You keep it in for when you really need it. Yeah. And if you're on doing internal work, then there's always an element of practice in everything that you do. So that's where your energy is directed. So you go to the beach not in order to enjoy yourself, but in order to better recover from the labors of the previous day so that you can do better work when you get home. Yeah. You're just reorganizing yourself. Okay, so now let's just breathe it. So this is just organizing really this exercise. Connecting to the breath, letting the belly expand and contract with the breathing. Making sure that when I open up, I don't leak. There's still a sense of the tail coming under. It's going back a bit. So at this point, if I'm sucking the air through the small hole, it will tighten the front and stop my tail flicking back. So really keep the mind on the Min Meng. So here you really feel the Min Meng. So the top part above the Min Meng stretches away from it. So the two ends of the spine are stretching away from the Min Meng. So the Min Meng is, in a sense, it's like the middle of the spine. So I want the definite sense that what's beneath the Min Meng is stretching down away from it. The bit above will tend to, when your head comes forward, the bit above the Min Meng will tend to come up anyway. So I just have to make sure I'm not coming out of my roots. So the bottom part of the spine has to really extend downwards through the legs. And then just turning with it a little bit. So as the arms go out, there's also a sense of like your tail rolling down each leg. Good, so let's just bring it back. Yeah, so it's just trying to keep this area open. And we normally institute some tension here so that we feel like we've got a strong base from which we can express ourselves. So just trying to open up. So sinking is as much to do with just opening this area and letting it flow down as it is, and just lowering your body. So the ego is just tension, yeah? And so just melting this area especially, so that the hip, the pelvis just feels like it's just floating in space with these tentacles that come out of it, which are like my energy legs. Okay, now let's just try this one. So here, this is really, really beginning. Just get into the turning. So just feel the center. So you're trying not to move side to side too much, so that it is just pure turning. And just feel how that draws in one side and extends the other. And just try and keep a balance between the coming in and the coming out. And again, just feeling this leg is tending to extend down, the energy leg, as the same arm goes out. So I'm always surprised when I work with Israelis, because they just basically have no feeling for energy. So when I show them something new like this, they'll do it really well to start with. And then as they repeat it and repeat it, it just sort of solidifies. And that's what they want. They want it to become a solid thing that they can possess and hold on to. And it just becomes awful. And so we'd like to be able to do the opposite. So when you start off doing something, it's a bit useless because you're just new at it. And as you sink into it and improve, it gets softer because you start becoming really interested in the energy of it rather than just the mechanics. So it's not a mechanical technique that you end up possessing. It's a path to energy. And it will tend to become hard and unpleasant when the mind starts wandering. When the mind thinks, oh, I know this now, I can think to myself instead of concentrate. So that's the death really of energy. So we just have it. The best way to keep your mind on it in the right way is to just find it endlessly interesting. You're just really feeling all the detail that's coming out just by keeping a light mind, a light, attentive mind with the exercise. So it doesn't become something that you know, because next time you do it, it will be quite different. So just having those two aspects of mind, the yielding mind that's enclosing and drawing in, and the expanding, attacking mind that's just venturing out into the world courageously and cheerfully in order to find a mate, or in order to, encounter the world. I'm just feeling, if I keep my mind on the job lightly, then it will all happen by itself. It wants to happen. Everything we do in Tai Chi would happen naturally if we didn't resist it. So the more secure and stable I am with my yielding, the more the attacking hand can really venture out. It's a full changing to empty, empty changing to full all the time. Yin and yang. And just feel how it just becomes a natural figure of eight. And the figure of eight is just the yin yang symbol. Yeah, if you think you've got the circle here and the two, the yin and the yang. So this is tracing this one, and this is just inverting it. Yeah. So you're just like you're caressing and making a figure of eight yin yang symbol all the time with these exercises. So there is something really magical about that symbol. It's a very unusual symbol because it's just all curves. Most old ancient symbols are quite, sort of straight lines, often because they were sort of carved into rock, and it's easier to carve a straight line. So it's like the yin yang symbol and that sort of that triple spiral from New Grange. So I'm coming over and it slips under. Yeah? Just feel that natural, sexy curve. Yeah, so it's on the vertical plane. It's also on the horizontal plane. So here I'm reaching forwards and then it slips in, reaches forwards and that beautiful place in the middle of the S, yeah, where it changes gradient. Yeah? So here, where it changes from one C shape to the other C shape. Something magical happens there. It's like a little burst of spirit. Okay, so let's just bring it back. So again, just feeling the two sides. So remember, we release the energy into the arm and into the leg by turning away from it. Yeah? And then I draw into the leg by turning towards it, which is me contracting the energy. And so in order to think, you need to stabilize this area. And that's what we don't want to do. So we want to have this area we're just really fluid and gooey. So my stability is just under my feet. I don't need it within my body if I have a root. So I'm fully organic. I don't need to institute a hardness or a machine or an ego. I'm just total boneless, boneless Tai Chi, boneless boxing. Okay. And now let's just try this one of just picking the foot up. So how do I get into the leg? The toes go down first. They pull the heel onto the ground, and it's through the heel that I root. But the toes have to go down first to cushion the arrival of the heel. Otherwise, I'll jar the bones and it will be violent. And so the most important thing with this one is that you just really try and bend the leg to pick the other foot off the ground. So if you do this and then straighten the leg, it just means that there's hardness in the leg. The leg is not fully porous. And if there's hardness in the body, then there must be hardness somewhere in the mind. So it's just a matter of just practicing it. Just feeling, what do I need to do with my mind to relax through the leg and bring the hardness of the ground up into me, into my bones. Yeah, so you'll often, with most of my students, it's at the side of their body that they use, like if they're right-handed, the right side, that will tend to hold the hardness. So with me, it's just difficult for me to really get down into the ground here. And it's really just, it's just the wrong use of the mind, using the mind to have an idea, an image that you then force the world to conform to. So I just want to really have an open mind so that I can feel what's there. and let what's there transform me. So I don't want to become solid. I don't want to become frozen, because then I can only use force. Energy won't flow through. So I'm just trying to make myself fluid, make myself of flows of energy. So the mind that is of flow is just light and cheerful, and just really, it's just flowing out and into things all the time. Okay, so let's just bring it back. So now just feel that roundness. So very much round on this circle. And now let's just squat down. So just using this exercise to really squeeze into the lower back. And just feeling that sort of sober mind that is content to remain inside the capsule. So those front centers, Danqian, heart, head, they're all really filled in, contracted in, and your back is really expanding. And you can really feel the Min Meng. You can feel that as soon as you start thinking to yourself, the tail wants to go back a bit. And the Min Meng wants to sort of draw into itself. And then just hands on the ground. So just give the arms a second to prepare themselves and then just rocking forwards. So if the mind is quiet, then you're basically always part of a process. There's a development with time. So there's always something happening, even when you're still and seemingly stuck. I'm just rocking back. Yeah. So there's something about being this close to the ground, especially in a squat. So you can feel the hardness of the ground, the presence of the ground affecting the mind. It's just making you more sort of tough mentally as well as physically. So that light, playful element disappears to be replaced by almost like a cruelness, an absolute lack of self-pity. Okay, let's just take it forwards again. Using the elbows to press out the knees. Really feeling the sacral area just expanding. So just feel how the sacrum and the occiput, so the back of the head, where the spine comes into the head, are basically, you know, the same area really. As one expands, so will the other. So that inner toughness, that sort of inner sobriety, it naturally constricts the airways. So you end up breathing through these narrow channels. So it's a bit like breathing through the small hole. Same way when you're sort of bright and breezy and light and playful, the airways open and it's easier to breathe. We want to feel here like it's actually quite tough just to get the air in and out. And just rocking back again. And just feel the feet, you know, big and wide. Yeah. Okay, and then up. Yeah, so we come up, but it's like there's still part of us that's down there in that posture. So it takes a while to sort of expand out into this. And you just have to give it that time. You don't want to be rough and violent. Okay, so now let's just turn. So slowly the centrifugal force picks up and something starts lifting within you. So this is what we're after on this one. So the turning relaxes the body so that it can sink better, and it lightens the mind so that it can float and rise up better. I think this is why this is the most popular exercise in the world. Okay, so let's. Yeah, so that internal ground state is your neutral, if you like, is quite tough. I think this is what people find difficult, is that they're so used to having a sort of a more outward neutral. Yeah. So this is why they get lonely. So we want that neutral to be just a withdrawnness, but not, so we can always withdraw more, but we can also come out more. But we're quite happy just to be in neutral and just to be inside, not requiring confirmation that we're wonderful from the outside. You know, you're just really confident that, you know, you are what you are, you're doing what you do, and it's worthy. So when we do this exercise, there's like this, you know, withdrawing, you're withdrawing more here, and this is expanding out, yeah? So you're just able to just, you know, it's basically just doing this, yeah? So you're contracting one and expanding the other, contracting one. So rather than it just being a mechanical twist, turn, it is very much two muscles that are just alternating, very yin yang. And you're just of energy, yeah. So it's just turning all the time, it's lilting, you know, it's so look sort of the air or of water or of the breath, you know, it's of process and softness and fluid, not becoming solid. Solid is death. Because it's, you know, it's really difficult when you become solid to keep the mind there. The mind wants to be fluid. Yeah. But we want a mind that's just naturally coming back to stillness all the time, even, although there's all these movements within it, but that's the energy really, that's the energetic aspect of mind. You know, we've got no idea what mind is really, you know, because we think mind is just thinking or opinion, basically. And for the Chinese, for any, you know, cultured, especially from the East, art, you know, they're experts at mind. You know. They know all its different facets, its dimensions. You know. And energy is just mind. You know, when you're relaxed, then the mind is just energy. So what they say is, you know, the head has to let go of the mind. When you relax the head or the brain, and it does, it just feels like it sort of expands, like you're becoming stupid. You know? So all this expands. And then the mind is just let go of, and the mind can just flow into the body and fill the body. So the mind is very much of the body. It's like a body mind. And there's very little difference then between the physical body and the mind body. And then you can just really feel how it just naturally organizes about here. This is like the center of the target. It's the center of the object. There's like an organ here that holds this body and organizes the body about itself. And the head mind is just incredibly, just totally unnatural. There's nothing in the natural world that even approximates to it. You know, so God knows where this came from. And so what the head mind has tried to do is just create an environment which is similar to itself. You know, so the city environment, you know, with its straight lines and its grey surfaces. And then computers and digital technology, yeah. So the way all that works is very much like the sort of mathematical mind. So basically, even though we don't realize it, we're actually live a life that is completely ruled by mathematics, yeah? By digital technology. And then like the mind looking at the smartphone. So that social media is like just an absolute model of the thinking mind, of the anxious thinking mind. So we've externalized the private part of us that should have remained private because it's incredibly ugly and trivial. That has now reached out into the world and that's become public. So it's like, this morning, just going to the beach, just seeing the sea, everything disappears. You're just there with this amazing vista. The power of that body of water. You cannot think. So we've created environments for ourselves that are basically really boring, really safe and ugly. So you don't really want to come out into a city, because basically it's an ugly experience, And so it encourages you to stay inside, but then that inside needs to be externalized somehow. So that's social media, because that's reaching out into the virtual. So we've made our environment like a mirror image of of our ugliest aspect of our noisy mind. And the soul, that part, the spirit, the part that dances and, gets really enthusiastic and excited by beauty, is just completely not in evidence. People don't notice things, And they partly don't notice things because they don't want to be affected. They don't want to be moved. They don't want motion. They don't want emotion, They want to be in control of all of that, So they'll get emotional when they want to get emotional. They won't let themselves be really moved by the unknown. Okay, so let's just bring it up. Again, just try not to stand like a statue. So you're still sort of melting down each leg. So never locking the legs. So basically these muscles are having to work all the time if you're standing up. There's no respite for the legs. So I am flowing down through the legs. I really feel my feet on the ground, but my legs are bringing the ground up through me all the way to the top of the head. And if it gets stuck, the energy, you just need to twist a little bit. Yeah. Okay, great.